And I went around the corner and there were 5-gallon buckets that were set up in the opening to this little room.
Okay.
So I pushed them all down. Emo jumped in, and there was a pile up against the wall of insulation, boards with nails sticking out, just a big mess piled up, you know, a couple feet high. And he just started to dig. And I was like, holy crap. And he's digging. I saw an arm. As soon as I saw the arm, I knew that the blue pile was going to come in. So I grabbed his collar and I pulled him back as far as I could. And I got my gun out and I started yelling, and everybody came in.
Welcome everyone to Dogaholics, brought to you by AAA Dog Training. Today, I am super thankful to be able to have Tina here, who is in her life done a profession that I find incredibly interesting. And so I'm super excited to talk to you about it. We've worked your new dog that you have now for a while. And Tina, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So one of the things that I want to do is we're going to do, to start out, this is going to be kind of like an icebreaker. So these are like rapid fire questions, okay?
I'll do my best to answer them quickly.
Perfect. So some of them, most all of these have to do with dogs, but some of them not so much.
All right.
Okay? All right. So first off, long hair or short hair?
Short hair. No, long hair. Depends on the breed.
If you had to choose one.
Long hair.
Long hair?
Yeah.
Okay. Big, medium, or small?
Small.
Male or female?
Male.
Hunting, protection, herding, tracking, or retrieving?
Ooh. I'm not a hunter, so not that. I'd say tracking.
Tracking. So here's what's really interesting. So Tina has a German Shepherd. So out of all of those things that I just said, the only thing that he's not is a hunter. He's protection, he's a herding breed, a tracking breed, and a retrieving breed.
Perfect.
There you go. So I was wondering which one you were going to say. All right. So out of all the names that you've ever heard, what's the best dog name?
Maud.
Maud? Why Maud?
I just love it. And my favorite movie is Harold and Maude. So I also have a Harold.
That's awesome. I haven't heard Maud. I don't even know if I've had a Maud come in. So you have Edge, which is your new German Shepherd.
Yes.
And I love that name. And it fits him to the T.
Yeah, I love it too.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
All right. So favorite activity with a dog?
Walking.
Walking?
Walking. Going walking or hiking.
Okay. Your favorite breed?
Jack Russell.
Small dog,
Small.
big brain, big heart, little body.
And mine are ready to do whatever I want them to do.
That's awesome. So we had a Jack Russell named Fuji, and when we got him from the people, we knew that he was showing like dog aggression and stuff like that. But when we went to the vet clinic and the vet found out that we got him, they didn't call him by his name Fuji. They nicknamed him the devil dog.
Oh,
But he ended up turning out to be completely wonderful. He was just that big, huge dog in that tiny little body. All right. So 2 controversial ones coming up.
okay.
Kind of controversial. All right. Dog parks, yes or no?
I used to, when I lived elsewhere, before I moved here, I went to the dog park all the time. Now, I don't think I'd ever go to one again unless it was completely empty.
Okay. Regular dog food or raw?
Both.
Okay.
They get raw in the morning, and I have a very, very high, very good kibble that I feed them at night. I want them to be able to eat both, just in case.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. So now for the 2 most important ones that all of America wants to know. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
I've had it. I like it, but I would never order it myself. Only if somebody else had it would I take a bite.
So I think pineapple absolutely belongs on pizza. And the reason why is because pizza is already not so much good for you, but when you throw pineapple on it, it's kind of like you're getting candy with it. And so it gives it this little added sweetness that I just think goes really well with it.
I'm just such a traditional pizza person. Pepperoni, mushrooms, black olives.
Yeah.
That's my go-to every time.
So then what would be your favorite pizza place?
Oh, I love Iron Pizza.
Iron Pizza?
And Powder Hound's pretty good too.
Okay, so Iron Pizza's here in Ethel. And then which one?
Powder Hound.
I don't know if I've heard of that.
There's one up on Schweitzer, and there's one just as you get off of 95 onto Superior going into Sandpoint.
Now, toilet paper, feed from underneath or from over the top?
Underneath is the devil's work. Over the top. Always over the top.
So why is that? Why is this even a question?
I don't know. Why'd you ask it?
Because there's always been this thing about husband and wives or people that live together or partners, whatever it might be, that they have pet peeves about which way it feeds out. I don't get it.
I always had to switch my mom's around because she always did it underneath. And so when I'd go visit her, I'd turn it around.
See, for me, I think that the best thing about it is that as long as you can walk into a bathroom and there's a full roll there, then everybody should be satisfied.
I'll still switch it.
All right. So that's the end of those questions. Now, you said that you used to go to dog parks, but now you don't unless it's totally empty. What changed?
Well, when I was going where I was from, I had my 3 Jack Russells and my little Harold. He was just a puppy and he was good, but as he's gotten older, he's not all that fond of other dogs like sniffing on him and stuff, and Maud doesn't like that anymore either. And we just played, we mostly just stayed away from everybody, but you'd have those people that they didn't have any boundaries with their dogs.
Right.
So once I moved here, there was just so much to do out here, hiking and everything else, that I didn't need to take them to the dog park. And once I got Edge, I really didn't want to take him to the dog parks. He's a very rambunctious puppy when he gets...
It'd be pretty rough.
And he plays... I have to watch him with my Jacks. He did like my canine, Emo. He liked to smush him with his paws. So they play in our backyard and they play pretty rough back there, but it's something that I can control, and they're my dogs. They're not anybody else's dogs. They're my dogs. So if something happens, the only person I have to worry about is me.
So essentially, you basically have a dog park in your backyard.
Yes.
Because you've got multiple dogs that can go play together and stuff like that.
And on decent days, I walk those dogs anywhere from 2 to 6 miles. So dog park,
awesome.
It's just not necessary. And I've started playing fetch with Edge with his chucket, and I'll throw the ball 40 times for him.
Yeah.
And they're getting their exercise, and I'm getting my time with them.
Yeah. The thing about, playing chucket and throwing and doing all that kind of stuff, when you have a dog that has as much drive as he does, those go forever. I mean, back in the day, we had to be really careful with our Rotties and some of the Shepherds that we worked. And, weird stories about Malinois just overheating because they just don't have stop in them. And
I count
like that.
I count how many times I throw the ball. Granted, I probably lose count, and it's either maybe plus or minus 5 on the throws, but I only go to a certain point and then he's done.
Do you use a standard size tennis ball or do you use the bigger one?
The bigger one.
Good.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I don't want him swallowing it.
Good.
It scares me.
Well, that's one of the things that's why I asked, because we were at a training session one time up in Tenino, Washington, and there was a dog that ended up swallowing a tennis ball, went to grab it out of the air and just inhaled it. And I can't remember who it was, but they had to reach in and grab that thing out. And so, it's good information for people to have, because the more a dog gets heated from activity, when they breathe, because they they don't sweat, so they cool off by panting, their throat really opens up wide. And so where you could have a tennis ball that you would think there's no way that could happen because of their mouth and their throat opening up so much, it's a thing.
Yeah.
That people have to deal with. And so
He tucks stuff pretty far back in his mouth too, and I thought I just went and bought him the biggest ones that would fit into the chucket. He's destroyed a few of them just because as he's coming back to me, he's doing this, so he's popped 2 of them so far.
Yeah, they definitely don't make them indestructible.
I have a rubber one, but it doesn't fit in the chucket.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit too big for the actual chucket, so we can't use the rubber one.
Yeah. Now, because you were a canine officer, I'm assuming that I'm assuming that there were times in your job that you had to deal with people, possibly at dog parks, whether it was dogs fighting, whether it was dog theft, things like that. Did you ever come across anything like that when it came to dog parks?
No, that was mostly the county.
Okay.
I was city, and that was county. Loose dogs had to deal with. I had a partner and I were sent to a loose German Shepherd that was chasing kids.
Okay.
We got there, and we had our little noose.
Right.
And my partner was standing to the side, and we were going to try and get closer and get the noose around the dog's neck, and he charged me. And all I had was this stick in my hand, and my partner ended up shooting the dog.
Oh, wow.
He lived, thank God.
Yeah.
But,
You had to stop him.
Yeah, and still to this day, I'm like, oh my God, somebody had to shoot a dog because of me. And it was upsetting to me. Yeah. But if my partner hadn't done that, that dog would have, it was already chasing little kids up trees and, and I was getting close to his yard where he was in, but he was loose.
Yeah. German Shepherds aren't designed to be that way. They weren't originally designed to be that way. And that's going to kind of lead into this next thing that we're going to do, which is called the FCI quiz. So what FCI is you have the AKC standard, and then you have the standard that's pretty much used by the rest of the world, which is the FCI. Now, the FCI acronym is used so much because I don't know of anybody that can pronounce the actual name, but it's the FCI is the standard of the breed from the country of origin. So, for example, here you have a dog that you're talking about, a German Shepherd that's running around chasing people and attacking, came after you and all that kind of stuff. It shows that in the breeding, so not the breed itself, but in the breeding, because the breed standard temperament-wise for the Shepherd is the ability to perceive a real threat, the courage to stand up to a man, to be easily guidable, and have a fondness of children. So here it shows that they didn't have the ability to perceive a real threat. So there was lacking in breeding there. So as we go into this FCI breed quiz, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a breed and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to do the best I can to make sure that I don't say the actual name of the breed. And so you're going to listen, and at times I'm going to ask if you maybe have an idea, and then at the end we'll have you guess and see if you can guess the breed.
All right.
Okay? All right. So let me get it pulled up. And what's interesting is that this one, when I went to originally pull it up, there is an American one and an English one. Okay? So when I pulled up the English one, yep, there was a picture of it, looked exactly like that. When I went to pull up the American one, there's no history on it, no picture, no nothing. So in this situation, I would say that AKC and this one that I'm going to read you came from Britain. And so apparently they couldn't come to agreement on what the breed standard should be completely. So American made their own. the AKC made their own. All right, so FCI standard for this breed. So the origin is from Great Britain, okay? And the utilization, so its job is a flesh-eating dog, okay? And so it's, as far as its classification, retrievers, flesh-eating dogs, water dogs. Now, here's the brief historical summary. So this breed was recognized as a separate breed from the field and other type, so I can't say it, soon after the formation of the Kennel Club in 1873. It originated as this and derived this name from Flushing Woodcock. As with a number of gun dog breeds, there is nowadays a difference between those used for work and those used for show. The show, this dog, is a sturdier, heavier version of its working counterpart, which is fairly common in what we see today when it comes down to field trial dogs and show dogs as well. Because a field trial dog, you want to be agile, athletic, that you want their body to look like it's nimble and quick. Whereas so many of the show lines, they go bigger, thicker bone, heavier bodies, things like that. All right, so general appearance. They're to be merry, sturdy, sporting, well-balanced, and compact. Behavior and temperament. Again, merry nature with ever-wagging tail, shows a typical bustling movement, particularly when following scent. Fearless of heavy cover, gentle and affectionate, yet full of life and exuberance. And then let's go to ears, because ears can be a telltale for this breed. All right, so lobular, set low on level with eyes, fine feathers extending to nose tip, well clothed with long, straight, silky hair. The body is going to be strong and compact. The top line is firm, level, gentle, sloping downward to tail from end to loin and set on, or loin to set on of tail. So some of this stuff, when they're writing it, it's translating to English, so it doesn't always line up smooth sometimes. All right, so now the tail in. The reason why I'm going to come up with this is because it's going to bring up another subject as far as the difference between FCI and AKC. So the tail, set on slightly lower than line of back, must be merry in action and carried level, never cocked up, previously customarily docked. So it used to be docked. Now it's not. Anywhere or everywhere in the world except for the US. They still dock them in the US because AKC, it still accepts the docking of the tail. So, but when it was docked, it was to never be too short to hide nor too long to interfere with the assessant. They say merry action when working, but it's the, the tail going back and forth all the time. So the undocked is slightly curved of moderate length, proportionate to size of body, giving an overall balanced appearance. Do you have any ideas so far of what it could be?
I have one or two in my brain.
All right. So let's see here. Let's go to coat. So the coat is going to be flat, silky in texture, never wiry or wavy, not too profuse, and never curly. So this is where you're going to get into a difference of AKC and the proper breeding also. Well-feathered forelegs, body, and hind legs above the hocks. The different colors, so you have solid colors, which are black, red, golden, liver, which is chocolate, black and tan, liver and tan, no white allowed except for a small amount on the chest.
Okay.
But now
that might have just crossed out.
But now you have bicolors, okay? Black and white, orange and white, liver and white, lemon and white, all with or without ticking. Then you have tricolors, black, white, and tan, liver, white, and tan. And then there's roans, blue roan, orange roan, lemon roan, liver roan, blue roan, and tan, liver roan, and tan. So obviously this dog has multiple looks when it comes to coloring, but yet they all still have to be done a certain way. All right, so size and weight. Do you know your centimeters?
Not very well.
Okay, so males have to be between, and this is height to the withers, which is directly above the shoulder blades, okay? The male can be 39 to 41 centimeters. And the females have to be between 38 and 39. So a centimeter is about 0.4 of an inch. So if we were to just round it to half, 40 centimeters, you're looking at about 20 inches
All right, so
for males.
not a big dog. Not too big of a dog.
Not a big dog. All right, so disqualifying faults. Aggressive or overly shy. Any dog clearly showing physical or behavioral abnormalities. Any guess?
Brittany Spaniel.
No. The thing that's really interesting to me is that we're used to seeing the American version of this. So I'm going to give a different description of the American version and see if you get it. Short, low to the ground. Normally cut to where it's short hair on top, longer hair on the sides and underneath, and tan.
Cocker Spaniel.
Cocker Spaniel. Okay.
Cocker
So the thing is when you're dealing with an FCI breed or FCI breed standard, the dog became popular for a reason. And this is where AKC, I think, jacks dogs up. Because they allow for things due to looks, rather than they don't hold the breed to as high a standard as what made it so good in the first place.
Like a German Shepherd.
Like a German Shepherd. So when you have Cocker Spaniels, all I ever hear about when it comes to Cocker Spaniels is Cocker Spaniels are growling at my kids or biting my kids because they're trying to get their toy or whatever it is. They have a tendency on my side of the work, they have a tendency to be pretty aggressive. But this English Cocker Spaniel, which is the original Cocker Spaniel, nowhere in here did it say that it was supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be merry, happy, confident, right? Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be loving. And so it's one of the reasons why I want to do this is to be able to let people know that there is a different standard than the American standard. So I thought that there was going to be a point when you were probably going to say Brittany, because we see more Brittany's here. So Brittany isn't as popular, right?
No.
The beginning of the popularity of the breed in America is the beginning of the destruction of that breed. That's something that I learned a long time ago, because if there's a demand, now you are running the risk of people breeding to make money rather than breeding and keeping a standard for the betterment of the breed.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with the French Bulldog now that they become the number one breed.
We're talking about that in the news today.
Sorry, did I blow it?
No, it's totally fine. That's totally fine. So yeah, here in a little bit, we are going to talk about that. So I'm glad that you brought it up. I wasn't sure if you had already heard it or not.
Yeah.
But
I just kind of, sometimes I pass over that stuff because I'm just like, just a cute dog and it's just going to get destroyed. It's going to get destroyed.
It really runs the risk of it, for sure. All right. But before we get ahead of ourselves. All right. So now that was the FCI quiz, standard quiz.
I was close. I was going back and forth between the Brittany and an English setter until size came into being. Then I was like, it's got to be smaller. So,
well, I think what's interesting is a lot of people that when they see the English Cocker Spaniel, it looks like an English setter. or a Springer Spaniel. They have a lot of similarities.
Yeah, Springer popped into my head. My brother has, he's always had English setters.
See, and I grew up with Brittany's.
I love Brittany's. But the first one he had was a hunting breed, and she didn't look anything like the dogs he has now, which are more of the show breed.
Yeah. Quite a while ago, when I was learning how to do all this kind of stuff, there was a guy that I worked with that he was talking about how when he was over in Belgium, they would have little Springer Spaniels and stuff that they would use for drug search. And they were small, and they preferred those because sometimes they would need to search an attic for something, and they could throw the dog through a hole in the ceiling, and then the dog would go do its thing and stuff like that. So, all right. So now for now, one of the things and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you in here is because I started to learn about dog training through the eyes of Schutzhund trainers. So for those of you that don't know, Schutzhund is a German dog sport that includes protection, tracking, and obedience. And it is to an incredibly high standard. Now, you are a canine handler. And I think that one of the reasons why I'm always fascinated by that is because when we went out and did the sport, we did the protection phase and we did all that kind of stuff. We were safe. I mean, unless a dog went rogue, we knew that we were going to be able to go out onto the field, work our dog, and come back with our dog. The canine work that you did encapsulates so much of that, but every time you went out, you weren't going out necessarily to enjoy yourself and have fun. You were going out into basically the battle, and you didn't know if you were going to be coming home with your dog. You didn't know what the training field was going to look like that day.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of background on how you became a canine handler. I mean, just kind of take us through your story.
I was a cop for 25 years when I first got on the department. I worked at a district for only about a year and a half. And the lieutenant that was there, I got along with really well, and he went to a special unit and took me with. And I got to go and work with Vice, and I got to see some of the stuff that their dogs did, but they didn't do a lot of stuff with they were just narcotics dogs. They didn't do a lot of stuff or hardly anything with the district officers. At some point, I went to the motorcycle unit. I did that for 3.5 years.
You rode motorcycles?
Yeah. And
you did this in what state?
Wisconsin.
Even in the winter?
No,
Okay.
no.
I'm like, wow.
We did have an old guy that you could see he would like to ride in the snow, and his foot drags, on next to his bike. Yeah. So I did that for 3.5 years, and then we also had a mounted patrol, horse patrol. Okay. And I was talking to the sergeant one day, and he was like, said, if I write, what do you think? And he's, please do, because I'd been riding horses since I was 5 years old. Okay. I loved riding horses. My mother would give me my allowance, and we'd go straight to the stables, and I'd go ride for an hour. That's what I spent all my allowance on. And then about another 3.5 years, I happened to pick something up off the fax machine. Oh my God, they're starting up a canine unit. And that's all I could think about. That's all I wanted to do. Yeah. I was so excited. And it so happened my sergeant on the horse patrol was going to be the canine sergeant. And I was like, Fred, so this is what I want to do. And he's like, go for it. So I did, and I was blessed to be one of 4 chosen out of 60, 70 that applied.
So what was the test in something like that?
At that time, we had to do an interview. I think, we had to submit a resume. Mm-hmm. They had all these questions. We had to own our house. We had to have a fenced in yard. Just experiences with dogs, what our experience was. At the stables, I took care of all the stable dogs. Okay. The owner of the place didn't even take care of them. I took care of them. I made sure they had food. My last day on the horse patrol, I patted my horse and said, nice knowing you, Beth. And I cried my eyes out, hugging the stable dogs. but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Oh God, it was so exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you went through the testing.
Yeah.
You were one of 4.
Yes.
And then from that point, how long did it take for you to have the first dog put in your hands?
Well, it wasn't long. They had already been in contact with the kennel, and they had 4 dogs set aside for us. And they had already chosen for us who was getting which dog. And probably within about a week or 2, we started training. And it was only 4 weeks. And Emo was 2 years old when I got him. And
it was 4 weeks of training?
4 weeks of training at the kennel. And then we did another month just on our own. So yeah, it probably wasn't enough training, but it was what we had.
Right.
They wanted us out there.
Yep.
And at the time, our dogs are started on narcotics, but there was a little back and forth between the vice narcotics dogs, and they didn't want us horning in on their business, but they never did anything for the district cops. So,
because to make sure that we're all on the same page, there's essentially 2 types of canine dogs. There's drug search and apprehension. Our dogs started out as apprehension, tracking, building searches, article searches, that kind of stuff. Yep. We eventually talked them into letting us get the dog certified in narcotics. And then my partner, Christina, her dog, Kenny, he taught himself to find guns. Okay. So he was actually a triple. He found guns. He did a passive alert for guns he would lay down. For narcotics, it was an aggressive alert, scratching, biting, whatever. And then our dogs, in their apprehension, they were not bark and hold dogs. They were find and bite dogs. Right. So if we sent them to find a person, that person got bit. So do you remember, I'm sure you do, the very first call you went on where you had to actually send your dog?
Yes, it was petrifying.
In what way?
Sending my dog into the unknown, sending him into a house with a possible person in there that could kill him. Yeah. And we were always told he's a tool. But there were also situations where they're like, well, if you know the person has a gun, what good is it going to do to send your dog in and have him get shot? And then the tax squad still has to go in. Right. Because now you have a dead dog. Yeah. And people are still putting themselves at risk. So I always had to think about what you were going to do and how it may turn out, and the threat to the dog if it was worth losing him. I did have a situation where I was going to send my dog in after a guy with a gun, but that guy had just shot 2 police officers, and we were all under the impression that one of them had died, but the paramedics brought him back to life. And he ended up living and going back out on the street. But I was going to send my dog in after that guy with the gun. I got yelled at for it. Yeah. But the guy gave up as soon as he knew that the dog was up there, he gave up.
Good.
Yeah.
So he was willing to stand toe-to-toe with the police officer, but when he realized that you had your dog out there, he didn't want to face that dog.
Nope.
What does that tell you as far as like the psychological effect that a dog has on a criminal?
They're petrified. I had a guy give himself, I was going to send my dog into a basement, send Emo into a basement to get a guy that had been doing a ton of armed robberies. And his girlfriend said, he was just in the bathroom. I don't know where he is. And I made announcements, and Emo had a pretty scary bark. Yeah. And the guy actually came up the stairs completely naked, holding his clothes. I said, why didn't you at least put your pants on? Because I was too afraid of the dog. I didn't know what to do.
I wonder what it is. When I always tell people that just people that own dogs in general, when they go out in public and their dogs are constantly pulling, constantly barking, or constantly trying to jump on people, it shows that they have a lack of control, and it can make people around them nervous. So to have a dog that's purposefully designed and trained to go in there and get somebody out, the psychological effect has got to be something else. I've been on the receiving end of a dog bite. One that put me in the hospital for 3 days. I was not a criminal. It just was a bad situation. But I've also worn the suit and I've worn the sleeve. I've worked dogs in protection. But again, it was controlled and it was safe, right? Mm-hmm. People outside that didn't understand it, they didn't know just how safe it was. But for you to be able to walk into a situation and have a tool like a dog that does this kind of stuff, did having that dog as a police officer give you more confidence when you went out on the street than prior to that when you were doing?
Most definitely. We would have our warrant squad out going to get people, and they'd know that they were in the house, and they'd be there for a half an hour, and person won't come out. And they call me. And I remember one time I pulled up outside the house. I got Emo out of the back, got his leash on. I took 2 steps and the guy was at the front door giving up. He didn't even want me crossing the street. He came down and gave up. I was like, well, that was no fun.
So you've given a couple instances where the dog potentially, just by its presence, saved police officers' lives.
Yes, and that was their main job. That was their main job, unless the situation was to the point where if not for the dog, then our SWAT team, or we call it the TAC unit, would come.
So how many years did you work Emo?
9 years.
9 years?
9 years. He started when he was 2. He retired at 11. Old age, and he had an injury to a toe that he ended up having to have his toe amputated after he retired.
Oh my gosh.
But there was one deployment right at the end, and I thought, he's done. I sent him after somebody when I should not have. That was bad on me because of his injury, and he took like 5 steps and turned around and came back to me. So I went into my captain and I said that he's done.
Yeah.
He's done. He can't work anymore. He's too old and he's in too much pain.
Yeah.
But we had fun. Oh my God, we had fun.
9 years. I'd always worked around guys that, for whatever reason, the department they were with, they were only allowed like maybe 4 years at a time, and then they could re-up if they were still doing well and everything. But the dogs, I don't ever really remember them having that long of a working career.
My partner Todd, his dog worked to be the same amount of time. His dog was 3 when he got him, and his dog Dusty retired at 12 years old.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he retired right after Emo.
Yeah. So out of all the years then, 9 years, we all know that dogs ultimately are designed to, in a way, kind of make us laugh. They're dorky. They have their moments. They snort. They pass gas when they shouldn't. They do things, they mistime a jump and catch somebody, What are some of the times that when you think back on your career with Emo, what are the times that you think about that just make you laugh or giggle?
He had a thing for, I told you once, he liked to nibble on stuff.
Okay.
And it could hurt.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when cops would be searching and they'd find drugs in a car, just to keep them safe, they'd put them in their pockets.
Okay.
And they'd call me and they're like, can you have Emo come and, sniff the car, see if we missed anything or whatever. And he'd walk right up to these cops and just bite them right in the leg.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, not hard, just with his little front teeth, and he'd start nibbling. I said, what do you have in your pockets? And he's like, well, I found some weed in the car.
Right.
They're like, that hurts.
Because you were talking about a few of the alerts, like for example, the one dog with the gun, he was a passive, so he laid down. It's like an article search. And then you have when they're actually going after the drugs, they're actually trying to get to,
Yeah.
they're trying to get to their toy.
There's a number of cars maybe still driving around the city that have full teeth marks from him on the dashboard.
Oh my gosh.
Because he'd be like, guys, there's something in there. Or on the
Yeah.
steering wheel, they pop off where the airbag was supposed to be. It'd be
Yeah.
packed full of stuff. And yeah, there were quite a few cars that he ripped apart, scratching, biting, pulling, shredding up seats. But he found there was a minivan that had the full seat, not the separate headrest. And the guys that were searching this car, these guys would find anything. They didn't need a dog. They found out everything themselves.
Yeah.
And they knew something was in this car, this van, they couldn't find it. And so I put him in and he was like, and he just started staring at that back of the headrest, back of the seat, and just started biting on it. And I pulled him off because I didn't want him. I said, they reached their arms all the way up into the headrest and came out with a big, huge chunk of heroin.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So if you hadn't have pulled him off,
He would have ripped it open.
and then it could have killed him.
Yeah, he'd been known to. The cops would tell me there's some crack sitting out on the table. Don't let Emo pick it up.
Yeah.
And thank God it was in baggies because
Yeah.
of course he'd walk by and
Yeah.
grab it.
I can't imagine working and putting in all that time as a canine officer, having all that experience, because you started out with 4 weeks basically of training. Something brand new, something that takes years and years and years to gain the knowledge. And you basically went out and you went to work in the field with very little instruction and sounds like had incredible success.
We did, and I had fun doing it. It was the best time of my life. It was some of the most stressful times of my life.
Yeah.
But it was best times of my life. Emo did some amazing stuff. He was responsible for the apprehension of 2 separate cop shooters.
That's awesome.
Yeah. One guy he found, the second guy, I actually had to send him into the house.
Yeah.
And I sent him into the basement and he was alerting along a wall. We could kind of see where he was. We had the warrant squad guys with me. And we're looking, I'm like, he's sniffing something. And he ran around the basement. He came back and looked at me. I won't say the command, but I gave him the command again, go find him.
Yeah.
And he went and he disappeared. And we're all listening, and all of a sudden I hear him jumping and scratching, and now he's barking and just going crazy. And the cop that was next to me goes, "What's that all about? Did he find dope?" I said, "No." He said, "The guy's down there. He's down there." Because they had gotten a good tip that the guy was in the house. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna go down, and got to the bottom of the stairs, and I saw it's a little hole. There's a duplex, a front duplex and a back duplex, and they had separate basements. But there was a hole in between the 2 separate basements, and Emo had gone through the hole, and he was jumping up on the side of like a little room that was in this basement. And they're like, "What are we gonna do?" I said, "My dog's protecting me right now. I'm crawling through the hole, and I'll get him. We'll hold with him until you all crawl through." So finally, like 5 or 6 cops came in behind me, and I went around the corner, and there were 5-gallon buckets that were set up in the opening to this little room.
Okay.
So I pushed them all down. Emo jumped in, and there was a pile up against the wall of insulation, boards with nails sticking out, just a big mess piled up, a couple feet high. And he just started to dig. And I was like, "Holy crap." And he's digging. I saw an arm. As soon as I saw the arm, I knew that the blue pile was going to come in. So I grabbed his collar and I pulled him back as far as I could. And I got my gun out and I started yelling, and everybody came in and dragged him out. And
So that guy buried himself underneath all that stuff.
well, the lady of the house did. The lady of the house who said that he wasn't in there. She buried him underneath all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, you can't trick a dog's nose.
No, and I'd say that was probably the proudest apprehension of my career with him. It was, and it was an out of jurisdiction detective that had been shot by this guy.
Okay.
And they had an award ceremony, their first ever annual award ceremony, and invited Emo and I to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the chief, pinned a little thing on me and was scared to death of Emo. I said, "Don't worry, sir, he's not going to hurt you." No.
Well, Tina, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've so enjoyed talking with you. I'm so thankful that you came.
It's my pleasure. It was fun.
And I can't wait till we get to work in Edge some more.
Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't done the tug thing with him just because how you were doing it, you have that special touch, and I didn't want to screw anything up. So right now I'm just getting him. I'm trying to get him in shape, getting him bulked up. He's still long and lanky, and trying to build some muscle on him. And playing ball all the time and walking him really helps.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with you having not done that, because it's not the amount of what you do, it's the quality of what you do.
Yeah.
And you are in the process of learning,
Yes.
some of the proper technique of.
Yeah, my technique is not very not very good.
But
not when I watch you. My technique is.
But no, I'm so thankful that you came and sat down and had this conversation with us. Like I said, I find what you did for a living, especially with a dog, fascinating. I want to thank you for that. I mean, because you're out keeping people safe.
It was my pleasure.
And stuff. So
I had fun. It was worth every second.
So, and everybody that was watching, thank you for watching the first episode and staying with us this long for the first episode of Dogaholics. And I look forward to seeing y'all again. Tina, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.